Good evening. This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. The search is on, half a world away, for survivors of the second major earthquake in as many weeks in Nepal. Among the missing tonight, 6 U.S. Marines who were providing earthquake relief in that region. Tonight, new information on that hunt. The 6 Marines were aboard a helicopter with 2 Nepalese soldiers assisting in relief efforts. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin joins us now from the Pentagon with the latest on that search. Good evening, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. 6 U.S. Marines and 2 Nepalese soldiers are missing tonight after the helicopter they were flying disappeared while delivering humanitarian relief to earthquake victims in Nepal. The Marine helicopter, one of 3 Hueys similar to the one shown here, was deployed from Camp Pendleton outside San Diego. An Indian helicopter nearby heard the American Marine pilot complain of a possible fuel problem. It had just dropped off supplies near Cherry-Coat, Nepal, and was en route to a second location when it went down. But there was no indication of a crash, according to Pentagon spokesman Colonel Steve Warren. No smoke and no signs of a debris field. The area is extremely rugged and mountainous. The Marines did not issue a Mayday signal, and the emergency radio beacon has not been detected. Those signals could be blocked due to the nature of the terrain. Earlier today, the 7.3 magnitude earthquake, the second in 3 weeks, set off avalanches and landslides like this one east of the capital, Kathmandu. The U.S. has sent about 300 U.S. military personnel from its Pacific Command to assist with earthquake relief efforts. Airborne search operations will resume soon, I'm told, so that Marine aircraft will be airborne again over the search site at first light, according to U.S. military officials. In the meantime, Nepalese soldiers are making their way on foot to the area where they believe the American helicopter went down. Brett.
Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon. We'll head back for any breaking details. Jennifer, thank you. A major setback tonight for the president's plans on trade as Senate Democrats vote to block consideration of the bill on fast-track trade authority. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel joins us live on Capitol Hill with why the president's own party turns its back on him and what's next. Good evening, Mike.
Well, Brett, good evening. This boiled down to a fight between liberal Democrats in the Senate and the White House. In this case, liberal Democrats up here won, blocking a procedural vote when Oregon Democrat Senator Ron Wyden shifted from cutting the deal with Republicans to voting against it. Top Republicans said Democrats are trying to change the terms of the proposed trade package. Republicans say this is a sign President Obama no longer has clout with his fellow Democrats.
Essentially what the Democrats are doing today by trying to block us from even getting on this legislation is throwing their own president under the bus.
The president traveled to Nike's world headquarters in Oregon, Wyden's home state, last Friday to make the case for free trade. He said it would help him and future presidents negotiate trade deals with other countries, providing access to new markets for American farmers, ranchers, and manufacturers. But his liberal critics said repeatedly that American workers have taken the brunt of bad trade deals and suggested the playing field would be tilted even more in favor of big multinational corporations against workers.
Our elected representatives need some political courage to work not just for the lobbyists and the lawyers, but for the American people who sent us here.
The secrecy coming from the administration seems to be the more based on the fact that the more Americans hear about trade, the less they like it.
Yet supporters say Congress would still have final say over a trade deal, and there would be full disclosure to the public before a vote.
There's been some concern about transparency, and actually Trade Promotion Authority will guarantee the kind of transparency the American people insist upon as part of this process.
And it's gotten personal between Democrats, with Ohio Democrat Sherrod Brown suggesting President Obama's attacks on Elizabeth Warren are sexist. Brett?
More on this with the panel. Mike, thank you. Not since the end of the Cold War has our relationship with Russia been this bad. But today, Secretary of State John Kerry hoped to ease some of that tension during a face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Tonight, correspondent Kevin Cork looks at whether today's meeting signals progress or more dead ends.
I'm grateful to President Putin for the significant amount of time that he made available to this discussion.
The meeting was a long time in coming, but short on deliverables. Secretary of State John Kerry, the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in 2 years. America's top diplomat came to Sochi hoping to get the Russian leader and Kerry's counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, to address a number of issues, but left with little more than an agreement to keep talking.
We came here purposefully to have a very full and open dialogue with Russia's leaders, the kind of dialogue that is absolutely essential in making progress on the many challenges that we face today.
Kerry's trip comes at a time when relations between Washington and Moscow have plummeted amid numerous disagreements like Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine, including allegations the Kremlin is arming rebels, enabling them to violate the ceasefire there, and Moscow's violent annexation of Crimea. Moscow's support for the hobbled Assad regime in Syria, so weakened it could soon fall, opening the door for groups like ISIS. And the Kremlin's insistence on selling Iran a missile defense system that could upset the security balance in the Middle East. Signs of strain between the two powers that under President Obama have frayed to a point not seen since the Cold War.
And at the point where the reset with Russia was supposed to be, we're going to have a great harmonious relationship, Putin's idea of the reset was to humiliate the United States and to reclaim Russian greatness.
Further complicating the Iran issue, Russia's part in the P5+1 talks. For the administration, that means counting on a country that on the one hand you've sanctioned, but on the other hand you'll need to complete the complicated agreement.
We also have a broader agenda with Russia. They're part of the P5+1 talks that are ongoing with Iran, and they've been constructive in those discussions.
All this comes as Iran and the nuclear issue are expected to be major topics when the president hosts the summit with Gulf states Thursday at Camp David. And there are still lingering questions about how much might get done at that summit at Camp David, as 4 of the 6 leaders' countries invited are choosing not to attend.
Kevin Cork live on the North Lawn. Kevin, thank you. Just hours ahead of a humanitarian ceasefire, a Saudi-led coalition continued its airstrikes near Yemen's capital of Sana'a. Security officials say 10 strikes pounded that area. The airstrikes were targeting the positions of Yemen Shiite rebels and their allies around the city. The Saudis and an Arab coalition charge that Iran is supporting the Houthis to try to expand its power throughout the region. Former CIA Director Mike Morell said last night to Fox the White House crossed the line, putting politics over national security and misleading reporters about its own talking points on the Benghazi attack. Today, the fallout. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harridge has the story.
Former acting CIA Director Mike Morell writes that the White House Benghazi talking points were crafted by presidential aide Ben Rhodes, who coached then UN Ambassador Susan Rice for her national TV appearances, to blame a video and not a policy failure 6 weeks before the election.
I think that is crossing the line between national security and politics.
Rather than respond to the interview with Brett Baird, the White House spokesman referred back to Morell's book.
My reaction is that Mr. Morell makes clear that the talking points surrounding the Benghazi attack were not politicized. In fact, what he wrote is there is no such conspiracy.
When the Rhodes email became public after a federal lawsuit by Judicial Watch, then spokesman Jay Carney insisted it was narrow in scope.
In fact, it was explicitly not about Benghazi. It was about the overall situation in the region.
Morell told Baer Carney's explanation was misleading.
Were they intentionally lying? I don't know. You have to ask them.
Morell rejects charges he lied to Congress over his role in the talking points, where he cut nearly 50% of the text. Morell now says he made mistakes and was careless with his words during congressional questioning. Morell says it was also a mistake when, after a request from Dennis McDonough, then Deputy National Security Advisor, he escorted Rice to Capitol Hill. Morell was told to defend her Sunday show appearances, which deviated from the CIA's intelligence assessment. And when he retired, Morell told the Wall Street Journal he was interested in advising future presidential campaigns, with anonymous officials noting he's close to the former Secretary of State.
Are you advising the Hillary campaign?
No.
Will you?
I see myself, Brett, as an intelligence professional, nonpartisan. I am not going to be working for anybody's campaign.
But Morell is now a paid consultant to the Clinton-aligned D.C. consulting firm Beacon Global Strategies, whose leadership includes Philippe Reines, Mrs. Clinton's principal gatekeeper.
Morrell also says he's willing to testify in front of the Benghazi Select Committee, but he hasn't been officially called for, Brett.
Catherine, thank you. After the break, Jeb Bush admits to a mistake while Hillary Clinton remains mum on the campaign trail. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 35 in Orlando with guns recovered from both parties in a road rage shooting incident involving George Zimmerman, who was acquitted in the death of Trayvon Martin. Police say the suspect was involved in an ongoing dispute with Zimmerman. Zimmerman's attorney says he was hit by some flying glass but was not seriously hurt. Charges have not yet been filed. Fox 25 in Boston, where New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady's agent says the Super Bowl MVP will appeal his 4-game suspension in the Deflategate scandal. He also says the New England Patriots have declared unconditional support for Brady. And this is a live look at New York from our affiliate out there, Fox 5. Fox 5 is covering a record-setting sale on a Pablo Picasso. The Women of Algiers painting sold for more than $179 million Monday. The person who bought the painting elected to remain anonymous. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.